Alright, what's good, YouTube? And I'm here with the deck that I played for the Tinley Park League Challenge. I already do have my 4 wins, so going into this tournament, I just kind of wanted to play something fun. I've been enjoying this Charizard deck a lot lately. I'm kind of thinking maybe I should play this deck for Toronto, considering how many games I've played with this deck. And I decided to go with this list. I know the list I was playing before I played that third Area 0, but I want to include the Klefki, just because I wanted to be able to have something into the side deck for the Dusknoir, because it can make a big difference, and also it's just a good lead against a lot of decks. You do have the Jet Energy, you have 7 energy to be able to get into the active turn 1, so it's not super crazy to be able to get into it. So I just want to try this list out, and that's going to be playing in this video today. As always, I'm going to leave the payment for this deck down in the description down below, and we're going to go over the run. Alright, so we get into the first game here, and I am playing the Charizard deck, of course, and I get a pretty strong opening here. I open the Fan Rotom, plus I get out to a basic Pokemon, but I think I'm going to go with this Klefki here off of this Nest Ball. I do have the Dawn for turn 2 to be able to keep going. I want to be able to get this Klefki in the active because it's going to potentially stunt the growth of my opponent's hand. If I can prevent my opponent from getting that turn 1 Evo TM plus energy, then it'll definitely give me like that extra free turn I need. It can also turn off like the Bouffalants and stuff. The only, I guess, greedy thing about this play is that I don't get a Charmander down turn 1, which is a little bit unfortunate. I definitely could have used that Nest Ball to do so. And yeah, I'm just going to bench the Pidgey here. Obviously, need to save that last spot for the Terra Pokemon. So I'm going to just retreat into Klefki and let Jeremy go here. Funnily enough, we actually played the day before this at a league challenge that was at another store, but that store I'm not like super, I mean, I know them, but it's not like a store where I could just bring my setup and do my recordings, but maybe for the next one, I'll ask them if I can in advance. They don't have like their own stream setup or anything, so it's probably doable. So, unfortunately for me, even without the draw, my opponent does rip that Arven off of the Pokegear, so they're going to be able to get that full playoff. They're going to be able to look for that pink card. The assumption is my opponent's going to be playing that Precious Trolley, and then Precious Trolley is going to allow him to set up his whole bench. So I think for my opponent here, more than likely, he's going to want to get like a copy of Monkey, probably some Bouffalants, and kind of set up his board to be able to get this King. It's gone pretty tanky. There is also the Rock Ogerpon you can kind of see my opponent just had right there at the top of their deck. So definitely another option too if they want to like throw off the prize trade to be able to get another attacker down. So here we're going to see probably, I think he ends up going with like double Bouffalant plus, this takes a little while, but we're going to go with double Bouffalant, double Monkey, and then that Cornerstone Ogerpon. He does see the water energy at the discard pile, so, and I do play Klefki, so Klefki is just going to say that it is not like regular Terra Box, right? Because normally regular Terra Box wouldn't play Klefki, so he's assuming it's Charizard because he sees the water energy. And I've been talking about how much I like this deck, so we'll just kind of see this Evo TM play go off. This one kind of takes a little bit of a while. But yeah, we're going to go. Boom. Goes back into my turn. I'm just going to get it going because, like I said, my opponent's opening turn kind of just took a little bit of time. So I want to be able to accelerate my turn to play a little bit faster. So I'm going to go for the Noctowl, benching that Terapagos off the Dawn that I searched. Go Rare Candy into the Pidgeot. And then I'm going to grab Area 0 to make my bench go a little bit further as well. We're going to go for a Pidgeot here. Pidgeot is going to grab Buddy Poffin. Buddy Poffin is going to grab a double Charmander to be able to get that bench moving a little bit. And then I bench my last Hoothoot. And that's pretty much my turn. I think here I just attached to my Terapagos and pass. I could have attached to the active as well and done 10 damage, but it doesn't really do anything in the grand scheme of things. And if I retreat the Klefki into Fan Rotom, then my opponent takes 10 damage and he just moves back over the Monkey. So not like the greatest thing for me there. So let's see what my opponent wants to do here. Looks like they're holding an ice cream cone. It's definitely a super annoying card, as it's pretty much impossible to one-shot. So I think my opponent does have that Lively Stadium in hand as well. If I was him, I probably would have played that this turn. Or I would have probably played that right away before making a decision to kind of see what I keep. I mean, obviously, right, I'm getting rid of the Noctowl. That's an easy one. Fan Rotom, that's an easy one. And then on my turn, I have to make the decision, am I getting rid of a Hoothoot or a Charmander? With having the Pidgeot in play, it's probably fine to get rid of the Hoothoot. I think keeping double Charmander is also just fine. I learned later in this game that I prized my Stretcher and my Rod, so being able to recover stuff is not going to be super easy. And let's see, Jeremy is going to go and play that Pokegear 3.0, and it's going to slam another Arven out of the deck. Pretty fortunate. I think he was probably looking for a Crispin, though. So it's probably the second best thing he could have gotten in that scenario, is just to be able to play the Arven. Arven's going to be able to grab him just something to be able to further his board and protect this Kangaskhan. So he's looking like he's eyeing up the Bravery Charm there. And Bravery Charm is going to give this Kangaskhan a little bit more sustainability. It is impossible for me to one-shot this Kangaskhan right. If my opponent takes a knockout and then I hit into it with the Charizard, then it's still only doing... so Kangaskhan has 300 HP. Charizard is 180, but you take an additional 30 damage from taking a prize card, so we go to 210. Then minus a 60 Bouffalant's only 150. So hitting into this thing is not great, because then even the Charizard is at risk of getting, high rolled. He hits 3 heads and bang, the game's over. So unfortunate. You see the Bravery Charm, he's eyeing up, the Ogerpon there. That's really nice because it now keeps it out of range of Terapagos. Terapagos can only do 100 or 220 damage. So now with that Bravery Charm, it's going to allow him to eat another hit. And then an energy switch off of the monkey to be able to go to the active and kill my Klefki. Pretty unfortunate for me there. I was hoping that I was going to be able to get another turn to kind of set up, Pidgeot for a Dawn and get Charmander in play. But this does give me an opportunity to set up a Duskull on my bench. I do have that Dawn. So I can use this turn to kind of take another setup turn. I was thinking about, well, I think I can just either hide behind something here and let Kangaskhan take another prize, or I can swing into a Terapagos and do some damage, but I'm going to need the Terapagos to attack into this Cornerstone Ogerpon. So go for Dawn. I believe my Charmeleon is prized here, so I'm not able to grab Charmeleon, so I go for the Noctowl, I go for the Duskull, and then here I think I can either grab Nor or another Charizard, so yeah, I go for the Nor here. So unfortunately for me, I'm not able to get Charmeleon Charizard this turn. And I'm just thinking if I'm forced to use the Noctowl this turn. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if I use the Noctowl right, I can get Charizard online. Can I get Counter Catcher plus the knockout with the Terapagos this turn? But I think it's impossible. I think even my best bet would be to go Counter Catcher attack with Fan Rotom into the Ogerpon to potentially just hit it for 70. So even if he moves 30 back with the monkey, it has 40 damage on it. So 40 plus 220 is going to be that exact 260 number to be able to KO it. But here I just go for the Charizard. Attach Terapagos. And I think I'm just going to swing with the Zard here. Be able to get some chip damage into the Kangaskhan just because my opponent did take a prize card. So with the Klefki out of the active, he is going to be able to use that Kangaskhan attack, which is unfortunate for me. So we'll see. I go for the Burning Darkness here. It's going to go for 210, but then because these Bouffalants are in play, it's going to be minus 60, so that damage is going to drop down to 150. Yeah, we're going to go back into Jeremy's turn here. He's going to draw for turn, and he gets access to a Night Stretcher off the draw. So finally for him, he's able to use that run errand ability that Kangaskhan is famous for. And with the combination of the Monkey Dory plus the ice cream cone in the hand, he's going to be able to heal 110 damage. And he draws that Bravery Charm off of the Run Errand, which is going to be really nice for him. Also, because the Area 0 is in play, he is able to extend his bench out. So now he's able to put down that Psyduck, which is pretty annoying for me to deal with because in order to knock out this Kangaskhan, I'm going to need the use of a Dusknoir. So if Jeremy doesn't take a knockout here, I'm not going to be able to get a Dusknoir down because this deck doesn't play Turo, which I've thought about. I think a Turo would be kind of nice in this deck, just be able to Turo up a Noctowl and then reuse it would be pretty good. Then the boss's order comes down here on Terapagos, and then with the Monkey Dory ability to move 30 damage to it, it's going to be a clean KO, which is unfortunate for me because that's my one way of knocking out this Cornerstone. But I do have some tricks up my sleeve here. I'm going to move my mouse. I didn't realize it was in the middle there. But I do have some tricks up my sleeve to be able to take some prize cards here. So then the Ice Cream Cone comes down, and this Kangaskhan is going to go to a measly 40 HP, and on top of it's already 400 HP. So I'm going to just promote my Pidgeot here. So I'm going to draw for turn. Well, I think I tapped like Pidgeot or the Noctowl here, which is a pretty good top deck. If I want to get like a super extensive combo going, I can. So I'm going for the Noctowl here. And I think I said I prized Stretcher and Rod earlier, but I think I just prized the Rod, which was unfortunate because I definitely needed that Terapagos again, potentially. But you kind of see how the game plays out where I play it so that I don't need the Terapagos anymore. So looking at my opponent's board, right, my opponent's taken 3 prizes. So my thought is here is, okay, oh, maybe you guys can't see that. Oh, let's see, I can extend this up a little bit. Look at that. And I'll get rid of my thing here. Okay. So as you can see here, right, my opponent's at 3 prizes, and I'm just kind of looking like, okay, how much damage am I doing? So we're going to pull out this handy-dandy sticky note here, right? So we have Mega Kang. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh. Mega Kang. And I'll make this bad boy a little bit bigger. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Well, you're just going to have to bear with me here. All right, so Mega Kangaskhan, 300 HP, right? And then Kangaskhan also gets 50 HP from Bravery Charm. He also takes minus 60 damage from the boofs. And Jeremy did not put the Lively Stadium into play, so that's going to help me a little bit here. But it has 40 damage. So if we take a look here, Kangaskhan essentially has it has 300 plus the 50 plus the 60 is basically 410 HP, right? 410 HP, but minus 40 is going to be 370 damage. So I need to do 370 damage to this thing. So then if I do minus 130, I'm going to need 240 damage. Well, look at that. Jeremy's taken 3 prize cards. So now my Charizard is doing 270. So I'm actually going to be able to knock out this Mega Kangaskhan by using a Dusknoir. But the funny thing is here is if my opponent goes, if I use this Dusknoir on my opponent's Kangaskhan, my opponent goes to 2 prize cards, which means I get to use Briar and take 4 prize cards on this Kangaskhan, which is absolutely disgusting, right? Okay, so here, get the rare candy for the Dusknoir, go for Night Stretcher. Night Stretcher is going to grab me the Klefki. Now, I can quick search. I'm just going to make sure that my Jet Energy is in my deck here. So I need a way to retreat. So yep, I Jet Energy, grab that bad boy, and I just take a look. Do I have Briar? So I also have double boss into the deck. So yeah, I'm just thinking here, I'm like, oh wait, I think I can Briar. So wait, I'm thinking, okay, no wait, I'm dumb. Got to attach it to the Klefki. And then I'm going to use the Curse Blast, pop on the Kangaskhan for 130. Now my Charizard is going to be able to knock this bad boy out. And I go for the Noctowl here. Noctowl is going to be able to search me that copy of Briar. Yeah, I go for the Briar. I'm thinking about my last piece here. What do I want to go for? I do have the Iono in hand for the following turn to be able to disrupt my opponent if I need to. But I'm just thinking, okay, well, my opponent doesn't have anything at the moment that can knock out my Pidgeot. So I think I'm safe to not use the search here to grab the boss's order. But there's not really a great thing for me to grab here in all honesty. So I'm kind of just thinking on like what's the best thing to maybe thin out of my deck as well. I do have a Buddy Poff and I could use to just thin out a Charmander here, which may have been the best thing to just kind of get it out of my deck. But I grab a Sparkling Crystal here. Okay, so I think my thought process here was I'm very low on energy, so if I don't take a Super Rod off the prize and I need to use another Charizard, I can attach a Sparkling Crystal to my Charmander, evolve it, and only need 1 energy. So yep, go for Briar there, take 4 prizes. So it's going to be a huge swing into my favor with this Charizard deck. And now, on Jeremy's board, he hasn't really developed any other threats. There's not like a Kangaskhan that can come up immediately. And everything at this point dies to the Burning Darkness. So we'll just see what Jeremy wants to do here. So he's going to draw for turn. He's going to play Lively Stadium, which I think is coming a little bit late here. The Lively Stadium wouldn't have saved him last turn because I would have been able to kill him by 10 HP. But this kind of just allows me to remove like the mons from my board, or lets me get rid of the 2 Noctowls that I had that are just kind of sitting there. And it looks like Jeremy off of his Pokegear is going to grab an Iono. And I'm most likely just getting Iono here. I would just kind of expect like an attach return on a Ogerpon and then a Iono. Be able to disrupt my hand. But at this point, if Jeremy's not able to attack this turn, right, and do 140, it's still pretty bad because my Charizard is being able to one-shot everything. Obviously, I can't hit into the corner pond because of my ability. But I think we just see the Iono from Jeremy here. Yep, and then I'm just going to be able to shuffle my Giant Hands at the bottom of my deck, draw 2 cards. But at this point, it doesn't really matter what Jeremy does because he's put on a 2-turn clock here now that I've taken 4 prizes off his Kangaskhan. So I can just kind of go like boss and like knock out his bench Pokemon. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do here if we kind of just skip along to his turn. He's going to attach Jet Energy to the active to get his attack ready and go for Iono. And then I draw for turn, and I'm just going to quick search and look through my deck for a boss's order. And then I'm just going to boss's order the monkey with the dark energy attached to it. And take that bad boy out, go to 1 prize, and then there's nothing in Jeremy's deck that's going to be able to knock out Charizard. He's at 2 prizes. I don't have any 2 prize liabilities on my board at the moment. Even like a Defiance Banded Ursaluna wouldn't even kill my Pidgeot. So, and because my opponent has no damage counters on their board to work with, there's pretty much nothing here. And I just kind of tell Jeremy, like, I can show you the boss in my deck if you want to just scoop, because even if you Iono me, like, Pidgeot's still on the board. If you boss something up, like, I can just search the energy to retreat it, because, yeah, there's just, like, pretty much nothing here to prevent me from winning on the following turn. And he just says, yep, just show me the boss, and I show him the boss, and that's game. So, yeah, I go 1-0 starting out, so we're going to get into game 2. All right, we're getting into game 2 here, and it's actually a Zard mirror, and Kui elects me to go first in this game. My hand is pretty underwhelming for going second hand, or for going first hand. If I had gone second, my turn would have been absolutely insane. I have the Dawn in the hand to be able to open up the Fan Rotom, plus, you know, kind of the rest of the guys here. But I'm still threatening the Water Pond, which is the advantage here. So on Kui's turn, he basically has to get 3 Charmanders down to guarantee that he is able to get into a Charizard on the following turn, because here he did lead his Charmander. So unfortunately, that means that he has to either get 3 Charmanders down or risk his Charmanders all dying, which is definitely not good for him. So Kui does have a pretty solid opening turn here, though. So we're just going to kind of skip ahead to like his little Fan Rotom search. He's kind of doing his little price check. So yeah, we get to see the Buddy Poffin. Buddy Poffin's going to grab Pidgey plus the Fan Rotom. And then Fan Rotom here is going to go for some Hoothoots, I believe. So we see a Hoothoot come down, another Hoothoot come down. And then it looks like he's just kind of thinking on his 3rd target here. He does have to leave his bench open for another copy, or a copy of a Terra Pokemon, right? He doesn't have one yet. But I think he's just going to grab the 2 here, because he said that his only supporter in hand is going to be an Iono. So Iono is going to have to come down here to disrupt my hand. Looking at my hand, there isn't a ton going on here, unfortunately. So with the Dawn being my play, I cannot get a Water Pond off with this specific hand, which definitely puts me a little bit behind. But yeah, Kui's like, yeah, I'm just going to Iono you. And he searches the Noctowl there. He said, I probably shouldn't have searched the Noctowl. I probably should have left it on the bottom of the deck. But he does get the Terapagos opening as well, which is pretty nasty. Puts the Area 0 into play, benches a Hoothoot, and yeah, this opening hand is super nuts by Kui. Unfortunately for Kui, I get Jet Energy Crystal Boss's Order off of the Iono, and I think that was a copy of Poffin as well, so, and a Nest Ball, so I'm going to just draw super well off of his Iono. It's going to allow me to get down a Water Pond attack, as well as set up a board for later in the game. As you saw in the earlier part of the video, I do only play 1 Jet Energy. So if I didn't draw the Jet Energy there, I'd have to draw like a Crystal plus Crispin, which are both 1-ofs, which I did draw 2 1-ofs in Crystal Jet, which is pretty crazy. But honestly, if this was my opening hand, like, the game is probably just over, right? And unfortunately for me, Kui does get that copy of Jet Energy to the hand, so he's able to KO my only Hoothoot in play. So I go Boss's Order. I'm going to bring up that Charmander, go Jet plus Sparkling Crystal, and then I have Nest Ball and a Buddy Poffin to be able to extend into more of a board. I show my last hand. Nothing too crazy going on there. So here I think I'm just going to go for Charmander, a Hoothoot, and a Pidgey. I'm just going to make sure my Pidgeotto and Pidgeotto are in deck. I do have the Pidgeotto in my opening hand, so I'm just checking for the Pidgey now. And I take a look through my deck. I'm like, is there a Pidgey in here? I'm looking again. And I do find it on that search. I'm like, oh yeah, he's right here. So yeah, sometimes normal Pokemon are a little bit harder to spot in the deck, especially in a deck with a bunch of them. So yeah, I'm going to be able to go for the Water Pond attack, and I do have a Dawn in the hand, which will allow me to get a Charizard attack into play. I can search for another Hoothoot for the following turn, plus I can grab like the Noctowl plus the Pidgeot, and then the Noctowl can grab me double Candy, and then I can go Candy Pidgeot, Candy Zard, attack with Ogerpon, and rah! Yeah, I can get another 2 prize cards, because there's no way for Kui to attack, because he's playing the Styborg list. Shout out to Styborg, he's on the Lost Zone Kitchen with me, and he ended up winning a European Regional with it. I think he's just playing his 60, so deck is very aggressive, but without access to a Charizard, you see in his hand he has Rare Candy, Charizard, Dark, or Fire Energy, so we just see a Fire Energy attached to Terapagos there, so he's going to be able to attack on the following turn with Terapagos and be able to take a 2 prize KO. Draw for turn, I get the Charmeleon. I'm just going to slam Dawn here and go for that aforementioned play. Definitely want to grab the Noctowl. Definitely want to grab a setup Pokemon for the following turn. So I'm probably going to go for either a Charmander or a Hoothoot here. I think I should have maybe gone for a Hoothoot here, because I don't think my Charizard is in danger of getting KO'd on this following turn. So just being able to have the next support Pokemon would have probably been a little bit better. So going back, I think I should have probably gone for a Hoothoot here, because then I can, quick search for Noctowl, and that gets me 2 cards to be able to kind of extend my board. Yeah, I'm just going to go for double Candy. So go for Rare Candy into the Pidgeot, and then I can Pidgeot here and grab the big old lizard, Big Zard, and then just go Rare Candy Charizard, and then that's going to grab me some energy out of my deck as well. So I have energy in hand as well to attach to Ogerpon, so it doesn't really matter where I attach the energy as long as 2 of them get 2. And then, bench Charmander. I could bench the Fezandipiti here as well, which is also fine, which I think maybe it's probably correct to hold the Fez there, so I think this is actually a misplay by me. So looking at Kui's board, right, if he's able, so I take 2 prizes, go down to 2 here, so if he goes like Counter Catcher this, Fezandipiti, and then goes like full board, or like Counter Catcher Briar, full board KO, and I don't have a Noctowl down here, I go to 2 prizes, and then he's able to take 3 prizes on my Fezandipiti, and then on the next turn he can go like Boss's Order up Pidgeot, and because I've taken 4 prizes, the Charizard does 300, and he wins the game, actually. So, yeah, I definitely have a bit of a misplay to bench the Fezandipiti here, especially because most of these Charizard lists only play 1 Iono, so it doesn't really make sense to bench it. I could have just kind of held it in the hand, and there's really no way he can kill anything on my board. I guess the same thing could apply just to this active Ogerpon as well. He could just go like Briar KO, but it looks like Kui's hand's just pretty dead, so he's just gonna scoop it up there, because if he KOs this, then I bring up my Charizard and KO that. So yeah, if he somehow magically got a way to kill Charizard, like the game is maybe fine for him, but then I just set up another Pidgeot and the game's kind of over. So yeah, I think maybe benching the Fez is fine if he doesn't have a magical way of killing me. I guess there's no Thornton in the format, so that's an old card that I guess he could have played to win the game. So we'll get into the 3rd game here. All right, and for the final game here is going to be a game against Joltik Box. And this is a pretty favored matchup, I would say, for Charizard. But the die roll definitely matters a lot. I think if you go second as Zard, it allows you to kind of get that free turnoff. Unfortunately for Dakar, he does leave that Blood Moon, but his hand is pretty lit. He has that Poke Gear. He's got the double Nest Ball to be able to kind of establish his board. And my hand is pretty good as well. I get the Fan Rotom, Start, I get double Hoothoot Charmander. Unfortunately for me, my Terapagos is prized this game, and Terapagos is a huge attacker into this matchup. It can one-shot Iron Hands, it can one-shot Fezandipiti, and unfortunately, Water Ogerpon is weak to a Lightning. So that means that Iron Hands can amp it for 3 prizes, which is really, really bad, because it's going to throw off my opponent taking 2 prizes, and then 2 prizes, and then allow me to Briar them in the comeback. So I'm just going to kind of hope here that my opponent's not going to be able to gust off my Ogerpon and KO it. Maybe I can get rid of it later in the game if my opponent's Stadium bumps me. And yeah, unfortunately, my opponent does have a way also to KO Charizard in 1 hit with that Iron Leaves. So I'm going to set up the full board here, go back into Takari's turn here, and he's going to start off with the Latias, and he has a second Nest Ball to be able to grab him into that copy of Miraidon, and Miraidon's going to be able to just kind of do the full combo. Very simple deck. Just being able to get out his Joltik. Joltik's going to power up whatever attacker he wants, and then bang, there's a Joltik. Joltik is going to get searched off of the Miraidon, and he's just kind of thinking about what his last Pokemon is going to be as well. So I think he was thinking about going for either the Pikachu or the Iron Hands here, but it's probably always right to go for Iron Hands. It's pretty impossible because I did not set up a Duskull turn 1 to be able to get the KO. So I think maybe on my end, I could have maybe foregone the Pidgey to set up the Skull, but I mean, I usually prioritize having the stronger setup. But Charizard's pretty nice here. He does have that Crispin in his opening hand to be able to accelerate some more energies onto his board to be able to threaten more attackers. Joltik Box kind of just wants to, get set up as soon as possible and kind of play off of the board as much as possible, because your hand is going to get disrupted the further the game goes on. So we will see probably a metal plus something being grabbed off of this Crispin, because he wants to be able to have enough energy out of the deck to attach with the Joltik. So we'll see a metal and a lightning energy get grabbed off of the Crispin here. So he's going to be able to attach to one person, and then he's going to be able to attach or keep an energy in hand for the attachment for the following turn. And you does see he does have that Iron Leaves in the deck. And I think here he's just going to go for, well, there you go. There's a lightning and a metal. So I probably see the lightning being attached to Miraidon, or we see the metal. I don't think it really matters either way. They're both going to kind of get powered up here. So we see, the lightning is going to go down in Miraidon. Metal's going to go into the hand. And then maybe Dakari probably should have waited for the Jolting Charge, or to not attach the Grass Energy, use the Crispin and attach the metal to the Joltik, and then kind of attach all the guys that way. So looking onto my opponent's turn, looking onto my turn, right, my hope is that I just kind of get set up as fast as possible. I know Dakari is going to bring up this Iron Hands to be able to attack into me, and my game plan is to eventually win the game off a Briar attack. But I think this opening turn maybe could have played a little bit better. I think I ended up using my Quick Search on an energy to attack with the Fan Rotom. But either way, my opponent's taking a 2-prize knockout on the following turn, right? Because he can use his Arm Press to KO my Pidgeot off the bench, which kind of leaves me with a weak board state. So my other thought was maybe I can go for, I don't end up doing this play, but a play I could have potentially done as well is gone for an Area 0 and then use Blazing Destruction to, I guess if I gone bench other Charmander, Rare Candy Zard, Blazing Destruction, get rid of the Ogerpon, then Dakari is pretty much forced to only go for an Iron Hands play, and I can keep the Joltik into play as well. But I think here I maybe greed a little bit, and I say, okay, well, he's only got 3 cards in hand, so maybe he's not able to get that Gusting card. His opening was pretty good, so, I mean, he only has 3 cards in hand, but if he gets a Boss's Order, or he gets an out to Fezandipiti, Fez can draw him like a Pokegear or a Boss's Order, so I'm just going to kind of take my turn here and set up my board as much as possible. So go for the Rare Candy, get the Pidgeot, and then I'm going to put Area 0 into play as well. And I'm just going to kind of make my board as wide as possible, go for the Charmander here, and I still have this Quick Search to be able to keep my board going. I evolved the Charmeleon Charmander into a Charmeleon, and I think I'm just going to go for the Quick Search to kind of set up my board even more. I can get this Buddy Poffin. Buddy Poffin can grab me probably another Hoothoot and probably this Duskull. I have kind of the full board here now. And I told Dakari, I'm like, do you mind if I take this back? I maybe not want to grab this. And I'm going to grab the Fire Energy off the Fan Rotom, and then I'm going to use the Noctowl to search off the Buddy Poffin and the copy of Dawn for the following turn. But I actually never put back this copy of Buddy Poffin, so it's actually kind of a silly gameplay error, but I think me and Dakari are kind of just chatting, so I don't think either of us actually catch this. So this one of these Buddy Poffins should definitely be in the deck, but I don't think it really matters to the overall game. So you'll kind of see how the game goes here. So that's definitely a mistake on my part. So that's a good thing I catch that now. Yeah, we see Dakari go. He retreats back into Latios, gets the Ultra Ball top deck. So I think he can Ultra Ball here pretty safely for a Fezandipiti to kind of get his draws going. You can also grab Mew-EX. It's also another good card here. The Lightning come down in Miraidon. And we see Ultra Ball Energy. Yeah, we see the Ultra Ball get rid of, an Ultra Ball and a Metal. It's pretty good discard here. And probably going to see a Mew or a Fez here, just to be able to kind of fill that hand back up. We see the Fez. So Fez is going to draw 3 cards here, so Jakarta's going to get to dig for 10 cards for a Gust card. So pretty solid. The deck does play Prime Catcher in 4 bosses orders, so the chances of hitting a Gust here are pretty high. He's already thinned what? He's got 6 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 5 is 12, plus maybe like 8 or 9 cards in the discard pile. So, yeah, he's got like 35, 40 cards in the deck still. So, pretty good odds of hitting this here. So, he goes for the Fezandipiti to draw 3. See a Pokegear, a Nest Ball, and a Balloon. All pretty live draws. So, we see the Balloon here just going to get attached here, kind of thinned out of the hand. Then, I would have maybe liked to see the Nest Ball here to potentially grab like a Mew. And we see 2, 3, 4, 5. One more is 6. And the Arven does guarantee the boss's order. Obviously, you like to use the Prime Catcher kind of last, so having to use that is not ideal. We see the Miraidon just kind of look at the deck. He's gonna check to see if the Prime Catcher's in there, but I think he's probably gonna spend the other Pokegear as well, just to kind of make sure that he doesn't have to use the Prime Catcher if he's not able to, because having the item-based Gust is always going to be superior to leave as a threat into the deck over the supporter-based kind if he needs to use a Crispin to power something up, potentially. So, boom. All right, and the second Pokegear is going to hit the board. We see the Prime Catcher, the Arven, and the 7. So we're going to see a Crispin and an Arven there. So no boss's order, but he does have the guaranteed one with the Arven in the hand. Jari already does have a bunch of energy on the board, so maybe I would have liked to see him grab the Arven there, but if he's anticipating an Iono, I could see the argument as well for him wanting to grab that copy of Crispin, because it's going to go to the bottom of the deck, and it's a pretty useless card at the moment. And it looks like Power Glass plus the Prime Catcher are going to be grabbed here as well. So, like I was saying earlier, pretty unfortunate for me, because now this Iron Hand's going to be able to take 3 prizes onto my Ogerpon. And there's not really a super great strategy for me here. We see the Prime Catcher, bang, right onto the Ogerpon. And this is going to KO the Iron Hands. And then, yeah, bang, kills the Iron Hands. And then, because I lose my Terra Pokemon, I have to go down to 5. And on this turn, I go for a Counter Catcher plus a Charizard play and knock out the Fezandipiti, which does leave my opponent with an Iron Hands on the bench. So maybe it's a better play here for me. I should have maybe gone just KO on the Iron Hands and Iono and see if my opponent's able to develop another attacker. But because I don't take the attacker off the board, he's able to just, I think, take another knockout, which puts me pretty low. Also, my opponent is playing the Iron Leaves, and I knew he was playing that card. So taking 4 energy off the board here also means that if my opponent does use an Iron Leaves next turn, it's going to eat all the energy on his board. So then on the following turn, I can take that turn to go Iono plus knock out the Iron Leaves in the active, leave my opponent on the Fezandipiti here plus the draw. My opponent will go to 1 prize card, so they do get a Gust card. They can pretty much knock out anything on my board, so I would lose to that anyway, but you know, Terraria is a pretty good size hand here, so I want to just get rid of that hand. So I go for the Counter Catcher on the Fez and then the Iono, but knowing that Dakari didn't have a Gust card, it's more likely off this Iono that he does draw a Gust card, because he's drawing 3 cards plus a draw for turn, so he gets to see 4 cards here. So we see, yeah, a boss's order here, which is really unfortunate for me, because, yeah, if I don't play the Iono here, he does get to draw on the into the Iono, but he kills my Pidgeot off of that, because this Miraidon's going to get attached to, and then my Pidgeot gets boss KO, but I still have the Charizard in the active. Charizard KOs the Miraidon, and then he has no energy in play. So it's kind of the same thing of, does he get a boss's order with this copy of the Blood Moon to be able to KO me? And the nail in the coffin here is going to be that top deck by Dakari, which is going to be that Iron, not Thorns, what is this one? Iron, not Valiant. Oh my god, Iron Leaf. Yeah, there's so many Iron Pokemon, but yeah, we see the Iron Leaf here, and yep, this is gonna be kind of the nail in the coffin for me. I'm gonna be looking like, oh man. So it's gonna eat a bunch of energy, and this is gonna kind of be the same thing from me, where now my opponent has 2 potential threats to be able to get a boss's order play with, and I have to either use my next turn to develop another attacker, and it's going to be pretty rough to be able to find just like another thing to keep going. Dakari's going to have 3 cards off the Iono, 2 draws off the prize card, which is 5, and then draw for turn, which is 6, and all he needs is a Gus card to win. So I have the Sparkling Crystal. I do get a copy of Rare Candy in the hand as well. So I can, what do I open with? I think a Buddy Poffin to just kind of look at my deck and see what the possible play is here. I know that this Verizia or the Iron Leaves can't attack this turn, but if I do take a turn off and Gus of something else, then this just comes up and KOs my Charizard anyway. So on this turn, I have to get rid of this Iron Leaves or the game is just over. So I'm just kind of thinking on what my play is here. I definitely have to knock out the Leaves at the bare minimum this turn. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit while you kind of see the decision making. So, yep, I'm going to bench my Fezandipiti here, which doesn't really matter because if my opponent has Gus with this Iron Hands, it kills everything on my board anyway. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get use out of my Duskull because now my opponent's at 1 prize card. Use the Fez to draw 3, and I think I was hoping to draw a Rod here. And I think I whiff it, so here I'm just going to have to use my Pidgeotto to grab a copy of Charizard. You see the Super Rods at the bottom of my deck there. Pretty unfortunate. Yep, I'm just going to use this Nest Ball to thin out a copy of Klefki. It doesn't really matter at this point. I'm just kind of thinning my deck out of bad cards. And I think here I just go for the Pidgeot. Yep, there's a Pidgeot ability. Pidgeot's going to grab me. I believe it's going to be Super Rod just to put all the guys back, and then I can use the Dawn to get all that stuff back out. So there's a Super Rod here. Super Rod is going to grab 2 Fire Energy and the Charizard. What am I thinking about putting? I'm thinking about putting back Waterpond too if there's like a potential trapping play, but there isn't because if I trap the Iron Leaves for a turn, there's not really a way for me to get like a double Torrential Pump game win condition for game here. So yeah, looking at my opponent's board, right? So if I go like, if I get back the Leaf, I'm not able to attach it, or not the Leaf, the Waterpond, I'm not able to attach to it. And if I go like Counter Catcher up Latios and lock it, I have to lock this Latios for a bunch of turns. And then there's not another really eligible target to lock down for that many turns to then get a Torrential Pump off. Because I think eventually Dakari can just attach this Miraidon enough times. And then because I've taken 3 prizes, the Blood Moon attacks for 2 energy, so I can only trap this thing for 2 turns. So I don't think the trapping is a viable play here. And I'm just going to thin these Fire Energy out, so attach an energy to Pidgeot, attach energy to Noctowl. Obviously, if a boss's order comes down, it's just game. I retreat, I take the knockout with Charizard, and I tell Dakari, all right, buddy, let's see if you got the Gusting card. Bang, KO. And then he's going to draw for turn. Boom, and it's a copy of Pokegear. So Pokegear is a live out to boss's order as well. Obviously, with the current hand that Dakari has, there is no outs. And he doesn't use any thinning cards, unfortunately for me. Or he doesn't use any like a Miraidon to like thin out some Pokemon out of the deck to have a higher chance of hitting boss. But maybe it's fine to just use the gear here because he's only seen 1 bosses from like the top to the bottom of the deck. It has been shuffled a couple times, but it's completely random. So, yep, he's going to get the boss's order here. And yeah, unfortunately, my Terapagos is my last prize. If I was able to see the Terapagos turn 1, then this turn I think I could have gone for the Briar play to take the 3 prizes and get that win condition. So I did have the Crystal in hand to be able to go evolve into Charizard, get 1 Fire Energy out of the deck, and then Crystal, and that would have been my attack. And then I could have used the Noctowl to grab Briar, and then I have the Dusclops here to KO the Joltik on the bench. I would have not KO'd the Joltik turn 2 if I was able to get Terapagos down instead of the Waterpond. I just thought I had to take an aggressive prize there because my Waterpond was the Terra Pokemon that came down. But yeah, shout out to Kari for winning the TGS League Challenge. I did end up getting 2nd. So that's some cool. Got some store credit, some prizing. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.